And that was Zheng Chunying reporting from Beijing. Marc Ostwald is Chief Economist and Global Strategist with ADM Investor Services International. Great to have you back with us, Marc. Thank you very much. So, de-risking but not decoupling. What's the difference?
Well, decoupling would be outright trade war, if one puts it bluntly. De-risking, well, it's based. I mean, there is a logic to it, as we've seen from the pandemic. There are far too many concentrations of production of a good deal of items in the world, and that needs to be diversified. There's no question about that. But de-risking is also implicit in that is all the issues around security, which is felt by both sides.
And Marc, how would you describe the dependency of the United States and China on each other economically?
I mean, the two economies, and indeed China in terms of the rest of the world, have become much more integrated now. So trying to break away or diversify is no easy task, particularly if one wants to reshore some of the production which has been outsourced to China or to Southeast Asia. It requires a great deal of investment, which the Inflation Reduction Act will help, and it requires acceptance of higher prices as well, because if you are moving back onshore, whether it's to Europe, whether it's the UK, whether it's to the US, your base costs in terms of your worker pay is going to be that much higher, and that's really the complex part or the complex challenge in all of this.
And what would success look like for Secretary Yellen's visit to Beijing? What do you think she hopes to get out of this?
Well, I'd classify this as bridge building, fence mending type of visit, and perhaps the best result would be that there is continued dialogue between the two countries, as opposed to and hopefully less in the way of unilateral actions. I'm not quite so sure about the latter. At the end of the day, the real test of all of this is how much in the way of further unilateral actions, stopping exports or stopping information or stopping investment bilaterally will still happen. But the dialogue is important.
And what could a healthy competition between the two countries look like, or could the relations between the two countries get any worse?
Well, I think the fact is, yes, they could get worse. One could have a much more, as in the Trump era, a much more confrontational stance. But and that is driven at the end of the day by Congress, not by the president. This is a point which I think often gets missed, that you get a change of presidency from one party to the other. You might see a change in the relationship. You won't, because it's about the only thing that Congress is actually very much united on their fear of China. Healthy competition would basically see, above all, developments particularly related to the energy transition and cooperation in terms of what's still a quantum leap in a lot of cases in the amount of technology which needs to be used, and from which will benefit everybody, not just those two economies.
Indeed. Marc, as ever, great to get your thoughts. Thank you very much indeed. That's Marc Ostwald from ADM Investor Services International.